ability to be super happy. I'm gonna drink some water really quick. Mm. 2 mana, 2/2 Ronalindal. I think that's how you pronounce it. Roar, reduce the mana cost of each card in your hand that didn't start in your deck by 2. So, probably a decent sealed card. I don't even know if it's a decent sealed card. I feel like this would have to be in a very specific deck. But interesting. 2/2 for 2 mana is pretty underwhelming. Pyramid Warden's a 2/6 with frontline, but this does reduce things, so could be interesting. Recurring Nightmare. Pull the top card of your opponent's void to your hand. If your opponent controls a sleeping creature, add a Recurring Nightmare to your hand. So, forever infinite void steal value. 1 mana. And you are yoinking whatever you want from. Okay, you're yoinking whatever's at the top of your opponent's void. But if your opponent controls a sleeping creature, you add another one to your hand. So, for instance, yeah, we're at 5 mana, right? And I have no pips left. But I have Spellbound and I have Recurring Nightmare. I Spellbound my opponent's creatures for 1 mana, and I can yoink Reoccurring Nightmare 4 times and keep getting a new one back, right? It doesn't wake up the creature, and the fact that your opponent's creatures are sleeping doesn't change. Pull the top card of your opponent's void to your hand. If your opponent controls a sleeping creature, add a Reoccurring Nightmare to your hand. So you get this back, and you're just yoinking cards out of your opponent's void, which is just going to be so tilting. So Band of the Wolf, there was a 3 mana Nether that like had ally, and it takes cards from your opponent's void, but you have to play a 3/3, and then you have to have other Nethers in your hand and get the Nethers. Like there has to be one sleeping creature, and you just get like this 1 mana value generator, and you just like yoink. So really, I feel like that's pretty strong, and sealed is going to be crazy. Even on ladder for 1 mana, like you can pull so many, like, and it's just a lot of value. Okay, Tooth Fay. Hidden for 1 turn. After this creature attacks, add a random card from your opponent's to your hand from your opponent's domain. So I'll read that again because reading's hard. Tooth Fay, 2 mana, 2/3, Nether Tribe. Hidden for 1 turn. So you play it, can't be targeted. After this creature attacks, add a random card to your hand from your opponent's domain. I feel like there already is a card like this from another set that is not as strong as this one. I feel like in sealed, this is going to be awesome. Like if you're running, is it Ronalyn Sparrow, the 2 mana 2/2 attack your opponent's god and draw a card? This is a 2 mana 2/3 and it's hidden, and it has another tribe. So pretty good value generator. Will definitely be a monster in sealed. All right, next 1 mana 1/3 Nether Gloom Voyeur. After you pull a card from your opponent's void to your hand, transform it into a Path of Deception. What's a Path of Deception? I don't know. But after you pull a card from your opponent's void to your hand, transform it into a Path of Deception. Really interesting. So it seems like Gloom Voyeur is going to combo with Reoccurring Nightmare pretty well. And nothing happens to the 1/3, right? So you do this thing, and you still have a 1 mana 1/3 that is another, which is reasonable stat line that will also generate maybe more value. We don't know yet because we haven't seen it. But we'll see. Oh, what is this? Path of Deception. We'll get to that one in a second. I wish they were closer together. We'll skip. Okay, so Path of Deception. What is Path of Deception? Delve a card. Okay, well, this one right here. Path of Deception, 1 mana Deception spell, common. Delve a card in your opponent's deck and add a copy of it to your hand. Dread Touch, repeat. So, this guy, right? combos with Reoccurring Nightmare to pull cards from your opponent's void to your hand. But if you're pulling crappy cards, this, right, will turn the card you pull into Path of Deception, which will allow you to delve a card from your opponent's deck. So let's say we're playing aggro, right? We have some low-cost creatures, or maybe we're out of steam. We are going to delve cards from our opponent's deck. So if they, let's say they're playing like hard control and they have like whatever really good high mana cards, or cards that are just really strong with certain. At this point, Deception isn't even playing their deck at all. Now you don't have to buy Hortuck, right? You just yoink it from your opponent. Well, you copy it. You don't actually take it. But there's like a really interesting loop here that only costs 3 mana, which is kind of crazy. Yeah. And so then it's like one turn you just stack up on your Reoccurring Nightmares and random stuff. Like, or if your opponent has a bunch of garbage in their void, you can just go digging for the good things, right? You play your Gloom Voyeur before you start Reoccurring Nightmaring, and then you get Path of Deception. Lots of yoinks. Alright, so hop over to this 2 mana 3/2 Nether as well. Roar. Gain control of a sleeping enemy creature until the end of turn, remove sleep, and give it Blitz. So gain control of a sleeping enemy creature until the end of turn, remove sleep and give it Blitz. You can take any card. There's no mana restriction. The only condition is that the card is sleeping. So not only are you establishing a 2/3 on the board, you are taking a card from your opponent's side as long as you can put it to sleep and trading it into another creature. So it's going to be a 3-for-1 for 2 mana with another tribe. 1 mana, 1/2 guild. I think this is the first guild creature we have seen in the set. After a creature is returned to hand during your turn, gain +1/+1. So, after a creature is returned to hand. So if you toast, I don't think this gets buffed, but like wrong path. After a creature on your turn. Okay. And we already did Path of Deception. But walk the plank, right? This becomes a 3/4. Interesting though. Sleep Darn Burn. Well, it gets Blitz, right? So you don't even need the burn. Like say your opponent has like two 2/2s on the board. You like sleep one, you play this, grab it, and trade. Say they have 2 8/8s. Right? You sleep it, you play this, grab one. Say they have 2 16/16s. You sleep on, you play this, you grab it and trade. I'm beautiful today? Thanks, Meepo. You're beautiful every day. Alright. 3 mana, Deception spell, Ludia's Lullaby. Put an enemy creature to sleep. Add a copy of each sleeping enemy creature to your hand. So, pretty solid. Yeah. So this is pretty much, dang. Thank you for the sub. People, I appreciate it. Thank you for the one. Yeah, thank you for the prime. I appreciate it. 8 months. That is 3/4 of a year we've spent together. That's fantastic. Welcome to the BAM fam. Okay, so that seems pretty solid. So comboed with Spellbound, you copy 3 cards from your opponent's board, and you sleep 3 creatures. Troll of Gods had a card like this, but instead of gaining a copy of whatever they have on the board, it's half of your life. You would draw a card for each sleeping creature. So this is pretty interesting. Like you can sleep anything, and you get a copy. It can be pretty strong, or maybe it will just be too clunky and expensive. But definitely like a solid sealed card. Anything that generates value is just good and sealed. So 4 mana, Puppeteer, looks like a spell. Put an enemy creature to sleep. If it's already asleep, gain control of it. So seems like a worse version of the Nocturnal, although this doesn't put a creature to sleep. where this kind of combos as gain control of a sleeping creature and sleep. So, Lysel, Lucid Nightmaster. 5 mana, 4/3. Guild Tribe, solid, roar, gain control of the weakest enemy creature until the end of turn. Dread Touched, gain the strongest instead. I think it's gain control of the strongest instead. So, you take it forever, not one round. Oh, gain control of it forever. You are absolutely right, Citalis. 5 points. It's perma control. Chamber Roop, 10 points. Ragnar, what's up? Yeah, you are correct. So it is actually better. 4 mana, steal your opponent's 9 mana card. Gosh, Deception is going to be so incredibly unfun to play against. Okay. Yikes. That's even worse. All right. So Lysel, similar to the Nocturnal, you gain control of the weakest. Or Dread Touch, you kill something, you gain control of the strongest. So you get, for the most part, you're going to get a 3-for-1, right? You take creature, trade into other creature, and you have creature on board. It's going to be, I think this has the potential to be really good. But we will see. Or like you just take it and go face, right? Like, it's just solid. So 5 mana, 3/5, Sleepwalker. Roar, each creature of mana cost 3 or less goes to sleep. I mean, it's a 5 mana, 3/5, so reasonable stat line, and it is a guild creature, but I guess if they don't have sleep hate, it's going to stall, but it doesn't accomplish a whole bunch. Unless you combo it with something else. And there's a mana cost restriction, so I don't know. I'm curious to see how this does in the wild. 3 mana, 3/4, Restless Bellkeeper, roar, return a friendly creature to your hand. If you do, also return a sleeping enemy creature to your opponent's hand. So a 3 mana, 3/4, solid stat line. Siren on steroids? Yeah, into aggro. More bounce for Mayday. 3 mana, 3/4. Return a sleeping enemy creature to your opponent's hand. So the condition that it has to be sleeping seems like a tiny bit extra, but I mean, it is a 3 mana, 3/4, which is just a really good stat line as is. Also curious to see how the Restless Bellkeeper does in the wild on ladder. Cherished Memory. 4 mana, 4/4, roar, obliterated creature from your opponent's void. This creature transforms into a 4/4 copy of it. Obliterate a creature from your opponent's void. This creature transform into a 4/4 copy of it. That's pretty solid, right? I don't know. Definitely situational, although it is nice to obliterate things from your opponent's void. Like, what are we trying to turn this into? Tier list on the set? I don't know. No, I mean, interesting. It has a good stat line and it has a tribe, but I don't know if this... I don't know. We'll see. 1 mana spell, Nightcap. Return a friendly creature with mana cost 5 or less to your hand. Put an enemy creature to sleep. Could be pretty interesting. Yeah. Could be pretty interesting. So, we'll see how that does in the wild as well. 3 mana spell, Knight's Embrace. Gain control of a sleeping enemy creature. Give it at the start of your turn. Gain sleep. Gain control of a sleeping enemy creature. Give it at the start of your turn. Gain sleep. So you steal their card, and then it's asleep at the start of your turn. That's interesting. So, like, it doesn't say for a turn. Like you get the creature on your side and then it's just asleep. I don't know. What is this? Citadel of Secrets. That looks like it'd be pretty good. That's a big spider. 5 mana spell. Well, that's probably too much to want to run in, I don't know, your deck. Cradle of Secrets, not Citadel. Cradle of Secrets. Add 5 random cards from your opponent's domain to your hand. Dread Touch, reduce their mana cost by 2. So for 5 mana, I can add 5 cards to my hand from my opponent's domain. That seems like it'll be pretty good and sealed. If I kill one creature, I take 10 mana off of my hand. And this is indiscriminate mana, right? Like we're not talking about like 5 and lower, right? We're talking about 5 to 6, which is 2, 6 to 7, which is 2, 7 to 8, which is 3, and 8 to 9, which is 4. So I mean, you can shave 7 mana off a card, right? 7 turns. I feel like that will be good and sealed. Getting a Negrios, right? Reduced. Like playing this on 6 and getting a Negrios at 7 mana and just like dropping it in sealed and just going to balance chat and just waiting. Just see the bubbles in the name. Okay, well that seems like it could be kind of tilting and super high variance, so interesting. Let's see this one. This one probably won't be super tilting either. Dream Eater, 5 mana 4/3. Nether Tribe. Okay, that's not a great stat line for 5 mana. It dies to Blight Bomb. Roar, add a copy of a non-legendary card in your opponent's hand to your hand. Good. It's not stealing, it's just copying. We can deal with that. And it's non-legendary, so it's not a big deal. Dread Touched, pull the chosen card instead. Okay. So it's a 5 mana 4/3 Cutthroat. So it would steal, but the condition is you have to kill one of your creatures. Okay, but it has to be non-legendary, right? That doesn't change in the bottom text. Dread Touch, pull the chosen card instead. So you can take anything but a legendary card with the body. Less legendaries though. So they can't take your Negrios, they can't take your Jason, or I don't know. So interesting. Probably gonna be pretty good. I feel like this will make people unhappy as well. Help everyone build character. 8 mana lost in the crowd. Set the strength and health of each creature in your opponent's board, hand, and deck to be equal to the hand size. To be equal to their hand size. Obliterate any creatures that have 0 health. Set the strength and health of each creature in your opponent's board, hand, and deck. Ugh. Okay, so 8 mana. Like, if your opponent has like a really... Who runs Jason anymore? Me. I run him in my heart. If your opponent has 9 cards in hand and you play this, like, you're going to buff their board a lot. Set the strength and health of each creature in your opponent's board, hand, and deck to be equal. Oh, okay. Right, so if you're playing Agrolite and they have like a Cern line and they're like their hand just fills up, you play this, every single card in their deck is going to be just like, am I reading this wrong? Set the strength and health of each creature in your opponent's board, hand, and deck to be equal to their hand size. Okay, so I think the plan is you remove all of the cards from their hand and then you play it. But like an 8 mana card that is that situational seems like it's probably not super great. But maybe. Or maybe not. But maybe. I don't know. It's an epic. It's got to be good. All right. Hey, it's Gamma. 3 mana. Friend or foe. Deception. Epic spell. Pull the highest mana cost card in your hand to your opponent's hand. Then pull another random highest cost mana. Pull a random highest mana cost card in your hand to your opponent's hand. Then pull another random highest mana cost card in your opponent's hand to your hand. So you blindly swap your strongest for their strongest. pretty high variance. It's going to be not great into certain decks. I don't know. Seems bad. But who knows? Maybe it'll be the best. You just run shit cards. Right, so like you're going to put bad cards in your deck to play around one card. Hmm. Because so far, like a lot of these cards are pretty decent. Guild Nighthawk. Nice. Hmm. Isn't Nighthawk like an Avenger? Hmm. Roar, return a creature to hand. If it's an enemy creature, gain leech. 4 mana, 4/2. It's a horrendous stat line. It's not hidden, and there's a condition for it to be slightly less bad. I don't think that's very good, but maybe it's great. It's a router. Hmm. Karst, Stealer of Souls. 6 mana, 5/5. Nether. After a creature leaves your opponent's void, summon a soulless base copy of it with Blitz. Roar, obliterate a creature from your opponent's void. So I don't know. I don't know if you obliterate cards if they're like removed, or so there's a thought that like if you play Gleamweaver on top of this, you remove the 2 cards and you summon them, but I don't know if obliterating a card is the same as removing a card from the void. I think this combos more with, right? I think this is going to combo with cards like Recurring Nightmare, right? Pull the top card of your opponent's void to your hand if your opponent controls a sleeping creature right. So you pull a card. Right, after a creature leaves your opponent's void, summon a soulless base copy of it and give it Blitz. So this comboed with Reoccurring Nightmare, you're going to be pulling cards to your hand for value, and then you're going to be summoning them to the board with Blitz, which is solid. I don't know web read because like if something has afterlife and you obliterate it, the afterlife doesn't trigger because it's technically deleted from the game. So I actually don't know how that works, but this will obliterate a creature in your opponent's void. I don't know if that combos with it. We'll have to see. Okay. That's Deception.